Hello, my beautiful people of Pulse Chain Crypto and my YouTube channel. I'm Whitney Magic, and I'm so thrilled to be here with you guys today. I had this topic that I was really simmering with, and I was trying to create some content around it, and I couldn't enunciate it in a minute. So I was like, it's time for a real proper drop in. And this has really been around noticing uncertainty in the world and how we relate to uncertainty and how we can build more inner resiliency. I'm going to bring you guys back to yesterday. I was at a baby shower, actually celebrating someone in Pulse Chain with their expecting child coming, and I was chatting with a few other Pulse Chain people, and it was so interesting and so beautiful to notice the difference and the contrast in us who have aligned our money, our energy to the future, to like building the future. Like we're all here building these things, and all of us are like, oh, we're so excited for the year that's coming ahead of us. Like we have this inner conviction, we have this belief, we have this knowing that we've aligned our money to times that are bright and booming and exciting for ourselves. We're using our money as a tool. And also, we're aligning ourselves to a world that we want to see more of as well. And seeing just like the sparkle that lives in our eyes, where we're like, yes, there's this levity, there's this hope. And then I went over to the other half of the room for, as I was chatting with them about over just like life and catching up. And it was interesting just noticing the contrast in conversations, even about like the political landscape. People were saying like, oh, there's like a candidate that like you have to choose two worse options and all these things. It was just all negative oriented around the world. And one thing I started to notice was like, yes, it's about aligning your money and aligning your energy to the future and to a world you want to see more of. But it's also what I think is so powerful in this community that we're a part of is building and training your brain, untraining your brain and retraining your brain to really allow yourself to beat uncertainty. And what I'm talking about here is uncertainty is this like, what does the mainstream media want you to feel? What does the Matrix want you to feel? All these things, these systems, they've programmed us to feel fear. And fear, why fear, is because fear is easier to manipulate and to control. If they can get us into a state of fear, they drop us in, they win, we get to play their games. We get to be easier to manipulate and control, just like chess pieces. You get to move them. And that's what the greater systems in the world, they want to be able to control and manipulate us and push us around the globe in the world, playing their games. And I find a huge part of our world, this is one reason that I love the Pulse Chain and Hex ecosystem, is a lot of us are very growth-oriented, growth-minded, independent thinkers. We question the world. Some people teeter a little bit too far on the conspiracy side of things, but I think a lot of us are very realist. That's at least what I have found. It's a lot of realists, and that's also when I meet other Pulse Chain community members. There's a lot of synergy. There's a lot of resonance that comes up because we're like, I see I get you. Real knows real. And in the world today, I feel like so many people are just trying to look for those different lighthouses of people who are like, you're sharp, you get this, you see beyond what they want you to see. You can question reality, and you can also create a different reality for yourself as well. And I find that is a very interesting balance where you have to be more masterful with your power and with your energy. That puts you at the higher part and chart of just humans out there in the world. And so a big part of that, just zooming it back to uncertainty, is we can go through the world as cogs in the machine. But it takes someone to say, I want to take an action that is contrarian to where most people are going. Why? Because I'm curious. Because I want to believe in a world that is brighter than the one that I'm living on, because I know more is out there, because I know that I can create more in this world than what is before me right now. At least that's one reason that brought me into crypto. And that's also one reason that brought me into Hex, is suddenly like, wow, things have been dismantled before my eyes. Oh, money is actually a tool that can work for me. Oh, what has the system trained me to do in the past? Is to trade my hours and time in for this and that and this and that and this and that, just so that they can keep me in the system and keep me programmed for how many years of my life? Oh, no. I unsubscribe. Let's resubscribe to something different. And so I think a big part of this has been If you want to train yourself to align to a different level of to be certain with uncertainty, knowing that that is a given in the world right now, you then get to say, okay, uncertainty is a given. How do I want to dance? How do I want to proceed? How do I want to create my future going forward? Okay, I want to align myself to opportunities. Well, how do I take advantage of opportunities? This is going to have to take me and test me to go out into the world and to question my reality, question who I am, question maybe some of the things that I thought were givens in my world for most of my life. I might have to break some things in my world, some concepts, some identities. Ooh, that might test me a little bit. That might break me a little bit. That may have me sit with this stew, this feeling of uncertainty, which may invoke some fear within me, but it may just get me to the root. It may just get me to the root of what I've really been waiting for, is to see how the system actually works, how power actually flows in the world, the systems that I have subscribed to. And if I see a system that I do not like, I can then also say, I unsubscribe. I extract my energy from this one system so I can replug it into something that feels more aligned. Yeah. So I have found personally for myself, getting into the crypto world for the past 4 years, a lot of this, like my journey, if any of you haven't heard, like it's been, I started off by pulling out my retirement fund and putting it into crypto, and 100% into crypto by October 2020. And that did very well for me, but it's been a game of seeing, like pulling my energy out of different systems, poking my holes in the way that things were, calling up the vanguards, calling up the credit unions, testing the systems and asking other people with how things sit in the world, to be like, let's zoom back. Let's just like objectively see this for what it is. How does the system work? How do I fit into it? Huh. Okay, let me do this in another country. Personally, for me, it took me to move halfway around the world to pull myself out of the bubbles that I had been living in, to be able to say, that was one bubble you were raised in. And then that was another bubble you moved to. For me, it was Massachusetts to DC. And then it took me from leaving DC to moving halfway around the world to Bali and New Zealand to be like, let me see the bubbles that live over there and the bubbles that are still similar in each of these worlds that I'm in, whether I'm an insider or an outsider. And so I do think that it's this game of life that we are playing. For me, it's very much on this quest of continually, like, I really love being an independent thinker and just questioning the world and the reality that I've come from and what I'm still choosing and still creating. And a lot of that is this game of zooming in and zooming out. And so what I'm talking about here is even like, when we're children, we're raised in our systems. It's the only bubble, the only system we know. We're very zoomed in because it very much feels like the Truman Show of like, you touch the edges and you're like, well, this is as far as I can go. Like that's it. I'm stuck. That's it. And so in many ways, like childhood, I feels like I can give myself full permission slip for these things, is like, it feels like I'm sitting on the edge where I'm like, that's as far as I could go. And then next moves bring me to explore another world, another reality. And then it gets me to say, oh, can I play further and create a new boundaries and discover new things? And it's on this quest of like further discovery, further breaking down the inner worlds. And all of this dance of like seeing the bubble, pushing beyond it. I find this is the dance of shifting beyond certainty and in uncertainty. And it's in this stage that a lot of humans, they don't want the uncertainty. They're like, "Ugh, that uncertainty. Ooh, you risky out there. Ooh, like," and I'm like, yeah, but also that's where you discover. Discover what? What do you think you discover there? An uncertainty. You discover truth. It's where you question. Hey, hey. I love comments. Hey, people are here. Um, it's in the uncertainty that you get to discover what truth is to you, truth is to others, and what truth may have been to your past self as well. I feel like it's from truth that you can actually create a grounded understanding by seeing like, oh, I see where I've come from. I see what it is. I see all these things, and I get to choose what resonates strongest for my point of me. This is truth. If we want to go deeper into it, I think that's ultimately where confidence comes from too. Um, I can say I've struggled with confidence for a lot of my life. I feel very confident today, and in this life right now. But for most of my life, I did struggle with confidence. And I think a huge part of that was I didn't know what truth was to me. I hadn't discovered or gone beyond my bubbles far enough. I hadn't pushed myself out of my comfort zones enough to say I feel confident with not only myself, but how I relate to the world and what else is out there as well. I don't feel like I'm BSing other people. I feel like I can listen objectively and not have to prove myself to others. This is what truth is. And this is what I still have questions with. I don't know it all. It feels very grounded, very balanced. So I feel like that's a loaded thing in itself around just like confidence and trust in that sense. But I do find this like dance of like uncertainty is things that the world fears so much. And I'd love to hear how any of you are relating to this as well. How do you lean into, or how do you dance with uncertainty? How do you even test it and try it? Like, does crypto feel like an uncertain thing for you? Or do you test yourself, or where have you tested yourself in many other ways? Do you test yourself through social interactions, through other business ventures, other connections in your world, human connections, whether that's romantic or friendship or family? Is it through questions and conversations? Personally, I'm a huge nut for that one. I'm like, can I ask more questions, please? But I find this beautiful dance that we can have is even questioning ourselves and asking, like, where do we feel uncomfortable with uncertainty? Okay, I'm going to go a little bit deeper. So, one thing that I really love about this conversation point is, so when it comes to investing in crypto, um, okay, for anyone who doesn't know, like I have my community of women called Queen of Millions, and I'm like really shifting a lot of this community. Like, yes, we're talking about information in crypto, but more than anything, it's having you question these things. And so even when emotions are coming up, I love working with emotions as an investor, because we all know in the crypto space, we can feel euphoric, we can feel depressed, we can feel anxious, we can feel everything in between. But I frequently love to be like, vocalize your opinions, your emotions, please. And then once the emotions are expressed and we can see it and we can hold it, you can actually see it. You can see the story of what is. So if that anxiety is there, what is that anxiety around? What is it actually asking for? Sometimes my anxiety is telling me, like, for personally for me, for being like someone who has onboarded a lot of people into Pulse Chain and has very much built myself around this as well. I've caught myself in moments where I'm like, wait, my conviction isn't deep enough. I need more information. I have a question around liquidity. I have a question around certain personalities. I have a question around some of the tech. And when that's been the stage, I've had to go out into the world and be like, let me go answer some of those questions objectively, like subjectively, to understand like pros, cons, probabilities, possibilities. So a big thing that I even teach my students is around when we're working with uncertainty, when we're feeling an emotion that is invoking uncertainty, what is that emotion? What is that story that comes up around it? So even play with yourself right now. Is there an emotion that's coming up in your world where you're feeling, I'm feeling uncertain, I'm feeling anxious about this uncertainty in the world, about this it factor? What is that? It can be excitement even as well. I think sometimes excitement and expectations go really hand in hand together. I love those two, especially in the crypto space, because it's like really close to euphoria. And there's big decisions that we obviously need to make when those emotions come into the stage as well. And so if we want to go a little bit deeper with this, when you can identify the emotions, you can identify where they come from, then what you can then layer into is this beautiful dance of probability versus, or possibilities versus probabilities. So I like to say, okay, example, Pulse Chain's doing quite well right now. Hex is doing quite well. Let's even break this one down. What if, so your feeling is excitement. It might be a little anxiousness. Like it might be like, oh, are we going to keep on going? Like, should I have put more and I'm feeling FOMO, whatever that is for you. Let's say it's excitement. And you're like, how much higher are we going to go? Is it going to last through September? Like, is it going to go all the way through? Like, it's so exciting. And also like, should I be taking profits or whatever? Like, what are we doing here? We're playing out hypotheticals in this situation. And so the way I like to teach my students too is like when we're managing uncertainty, instead of me just giving you answers, how about you lay out for yourself? What are the different possibilities that could exist? Okay, more capital keeps flowing in. More whales keep coming in. Price keeps going up euphorically. And before you know it, it's even before the elections, and we've reached back to sack prices. Like what? You have to ask yourself, okay, now that like we see this momentum, we see this game, we see this thing. Um, oh, like maybe there's some momentum that comes off of the like SEC case in New York and all the things. Maybe we keep on going. Okay, well, what's the probability that that would happen? Personally, for me, I'm like, this doesn't feel super, super like this is it. This feels like a little teaser of a nice little pump. So for me, I'd be like, that's like a 2. That's like a 3 possibility. I'm like, that's not super high. We're not gonna have another month and a half of pumping. Someone may have me wrong, but that's just my personal take around it. And then other possibilities on the other side of things is like feeling this excitement. So let's play out the other side of things. Is like on the downside, if someone's like, I want to put more money in, like I'm feeling this excitement here. I'm like, okay, the other side is like this could be a little pump up and it's just a little drop off. Like, and then it's kind of feeling that either that like disappointment, that anxiety that comes with it, the like, are we in an in-between point? Are we going to hit bigger bottoms? Like what's going to happen here? Are we ever going to return to these price points? Should I be putting more capital in at this time? And so it's just always, I love to see it sort of in my brain of like, let's weigh out pros, cons. Let's map out all these possibilities, the reasons, the things that could happen and their reasons why. And then in the other column next to it, write out the probability on a scale from 1 to 10. What do you think the probability is that this will happen? And being really honest with yourself. And I find this is like a really beautiful dance that like I find for my own brain. Someone who definitely has struggled with with a good amount of anxiety in my world, and trying to really understand that in this season of my world. I've seen it more, if I could understand that properly, as like generalized anxiety, which kind of means that you stress out about everything and creating crazy situations out of everything. So at least my brain is trained to like map out these possibilities. But I do find that the more you can see, like take a piece of paper and just be like, these are all the possibilities that could happen. It helps my brain at least relax to look back at the paper and be like, this is all I'm fearful about. This is all I'm excited about. Okay, cool. Let me just sit with that emotion. And then from there, let me feel the emotion, let me process it, and then let me make a better decision from there. And ultimately, you know what this is doing? God's landing. You know what this is doing? It's bringing you back to that uncertainty. It's beating uncertainty. It's saying, hey, I can hold the uncertainty of the world. I can see the possibilities of everything. To the most part. Also, like, I don't have a glass ball. Like, we could not have predicted today, like the whole second attempt at the assassination of Trump. Like, we could not have predicted that. Like, that's a loose cannon. Well, some people have predicted. That's a loose cannon type of a thing. But with these things, I think seeing all different types of possibilities helps you prepare for uncertainty, to say, I can't predict things. My ego wants to be able to, but at the same time, I can't. And that's totally fine with me. Totally fine. It helps feel like this inner exhale of like, I don't need to control everything. Oh, say sloth. Allah. So it helps this like softening process, I find, as we are like in a world right now that is straddling so much uncertainty, and so many people that I find the more uncertain life gets, the more that they just want to eject themselves from making decisions. I saw that yesterday in some conversations that I was having with other people. Oh, I'm so cool. I can see. Okay, cool. Thanks for the messages on both ends, Sloth. I saw that it came through on Twitter and on YouTube. But anyways, I can definitely see in the world right now where there's a lot of people who want to hit eject from having to make decisions for themselves. And they want to just be able to be like, well, the world's so uncertain. Like, I can't make decisions. And I'm like, it's not that hard, bruh. It's not that hard. You know what the great thing is we can actually train our brain to spot patterns, which many of us have done in the crypto space. Hence why we're all like, we're aligned our money to the future. It's so exciting. We're so excited about this upcoming year. So excited. So cool. We have other people who are also on this optimism, growth-minded mindset, supporting each other, wanting to build the future together. Like, it's the up and up and up. What great fuel. And so you guys let me know, how do you feel about certainty and uncertainty? But I feel like in our community, also given the amount of volatility that we have, we've had to face our inner uncertainty for our own selves and to see this beautiful dance of how we sit with it. Because anyone who chooses an asset class that is the most volatile, anyone chooses to go 80, 90, 95% down on any asset actively, whether we realize it or not, we do realize that that is a possibility in our world. Anyone who does that says that I am fine to some degree with uncertainty. And if I'm not fine with it, I will definitely figure out in my gut, heart, and soul with how to manage my uncertainty, or it will spit me up and spit me out and eat me alive. So, how do you feel like you have shifted with your relationship to certainty and uncertainty? Do you still feel like you're trying to grasp onto certainty? And where do you think that you try to do that with? I actually find I would be intrigued if anyone actually relates to this in any way, shape, or form with like their consumption to YouTube videos. Because I do find that sometimes people can be in this mass consumption mode of information. This is one thing that I really love to train my students around, is like not to be in the hamster wheel. It's a very fine balance of like balancing learning and taking information in, because I think it's very important to train our brains to work in a certain way that is not just like the hamster wheel, like they've trained us for so many years. It's the untraining. Hi, Joe. Good to see you. How do you feel about this training and this untraining? So it's like this beautiful, delicate balance. And so quite often when I'm consuming information, I have this inner question, this inner dialogue with myself of, why am I here? Why am I learning today? Why am I watching this? Why am I consuming? Because the contrast is, I could have turned this video off and I could have silence. And that would be my chance, my ability to connect with God. That would be my chance and ability to connect with more of my own creativity versus consumption. Everything's trade-offs. Anytime you say yes, you're also saying no. Anytime you're saying no to something, you're saying yes to other possibilities. Same. So for yourself, do you ever find that when you're in a certain, I'm creating certainty, you're saying, hey, can I go to other influencers, other pulse chain influencers, other influencers, other hex influencers, other people to hear what they have to say before I create my own perception and context around what my beliefs are, around what my emotions are telling me? How do you feel about uncertainty? How does it express in your world? We all have it. I'm not saying it's bad. I actually think that there's this beautiful balance between when we want uncertainty, when we want certainty, sometimes we have to go into learner mode, hunter mode, gathering mode, like got to go out into the world to collect information to be able to create answers to help us sit in uncertainty. So it's this beautiful balance that comes up, but it's just speaking for what is. Do you sometimes lean too far heavy onto the certainty side of craving certainty or craving control? Or do you tell people, yes, this is going to go up 1,000x? I have control, I have certainty. That's also another form of where we're craving certainty. So just speaking about the elephant in the room, because the more I think that we can see our inner architecture of how we relate to these things, the more that we can not only release ourselves from these things, like the more that you have awareness, you can see it, and then you can start to unravel these patterns to be like, now that I have awareness, I'm craving certainty right now. Can I sit with a little bit of uncertainty? Please, please. I think we can do it. I think you can do it. Right? Right? Okay, how does this help you as a crypto investor? Because I promise it does so many times, so many ways. Also, I'm so happy this conversation is coming through right now. I wanted to do this in like a 90-second reel on Instagram. It was not meant for that at all. 24 minutes in. Okay. So how does this make you a better crypto investor? Okay, so our job as crypto investors, what's our job? Fundamentally. I mean, it's to hit the button. It's to hit the buy button. It's to hit the sell button. There's a few steps in between. But the short of things is like we're consuming information so that ultimately we can make better decisions. Decisions. That is our job. If there are things in your way clouding your ability to make decisions, what's going to happen to your portfolio. If you're feeling emotional about your investments, what may happen to your portfolio? We've all been there before, okay? We've all been there before. You may not make a decision. You may not hit sell when you should be taking some profits. Is that validating? I think that's validating. That thumbs up. You may make emotional decisions to sell when you should not. You may make emotional decisions to buy and put extra money in on pumps, maybe pumps like these. You're like, at this point, you're like, there's still steam left in it. Like, I need to put more money in. Maybe. Are you chasing it? I don't know. Make a decision for you. So, the more that we are able to sit and be aware of the uncertainty and the certainty, balancing this, the better decisions that you can make as an investor to then take profits at a time that is more beneficial to you to keep you on track. So I find this whole thing where I'm talking about beating uncertainty, building inner resiliency with yourself. Really what we're talking about here is how can we be a little bit more aware, or a lot more aware, of our inner world, of our inner emotions, of things that help influence and create the decisions that we craft in our life, and maybe even how you have conversations or the relations you have in your world. Can we see more of this? Can we speak more to this? Can we act more in our power and in our leadership with other people? Can we? The more that we can do this, we can rise above the other influences, the way that the other world has trained us. We grow in more maturity, more emotional intelligence, and we can also learn to sit with more uncertainty so that we can make decisions that are actually in alignment with our plans and our strategies as investors and as people who want to hold big wealth and big freedom in our world and our reality. Do you see that? Does it make sense? Hey, Maddie, good to see you. Glad you're here. I really enjoyed this conversation. So this whole dance, like, we all know that the games that we sign up for in this crypto space, we also do realize that what we're doing is, like, there is no certainty in many ways. And at the same time, we are studying, we're training our brain to spot energy patterns. And in that case, that's personally one reason that I feel so confident about the plans and the decisions that I make with my own finances, is because I'm like, I know where the world's shifting to. I know where more energy is going to flow to as well. I understand how momentum works. I understand how patterns work. We all understand this. We're all relating to this in different ways, shapes, and forms. And this, in many ways, is also our individual relations to beating that uncertainty loop as well. How do we sit with this a little bit more? How do we understand where we've come from? How do we work through that anxiety little loop that goes on with consuming information being in the most volatile asset class? Any comments, any feelings? I would love to hear. Let me see. I had a little list for you guys. I think I made it through all of it. Oh, I have one for you. Okay. How is this going to weave in? I briefly spoke about this, but I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper here. So I found that when I was first, glad to have you here, Gray. Glad to have you here. That's fine. It's on the recording as well. Glad to see you showed up in the comment section. It makes my heart so happy. But okay, so one thing that I really love to see around taking actions. So I know some people can feel, okay, if we want to go back to trust, I nerd out a ton around trust in my own mind of how I see the world. Like, I think trust is the greatest currency of the world. I've spoken a lot about this on other videos and such like that. But I think trust is the greatest currency. Just start to see it with who you trust with your secrets, who you don't trust with your secrets, what business relationships you have that have been built off of trust, and then other ones that have not, or trust has been broken. So just start to see it in that sense, and then start to see trust even through the sense of, like, in the system, in the greater collective financial systems of the world. Where have we lost trust? We're all crypto nerds. I don't have to say it for you guys. You guys know it. So just start seeing that the entire world, the entire way that the human species is structured, is that we want to go around the world building our trust points. And when trust points have been dropped, and have been broken. It needs to be repaired in different ways. Okay, next level. So one way that I like to teach my crypto students, especially because like women, they're so sweet in my world. Um, Women, I don't know how men are with this, but particularly with women, a lot of times we want to get things right. We don't want to get scammed by certain things. And our nervous system can sometimes be a little bit overwhelmed when we have to make big changes. And sometimes the blockchain does that. I totally get it because I've totally felt it for my own self. And so when any of my students are like going through this process of like getting into crypto and building out their security systems, getting their Trezor set up, moving money onto Pulse Chain, going through the bridge, figuring out MetaMask, all these things that we all know. Whenever they're going through this process, I love to say, each step that you do, each action you take, can you actually see it as a way of you building your trust with the system? Of being like, I'm going to take this one action. I'm going to take this one thing. How is it going to land in my body? Is it going to help me build trust with the system, or is it going to break my trust? So like example, if you go from like your Coinbase account over to MetaMask and your money, your USDC, your ETH gets delivered, cool, you've just built yourself a trust point. You've been building your confidence by taking actions. Amazing. And it's so amazing to see how I think like humans collectively think that like we fear more than we are excited, or it's like you think about fear more. Fear is heavier than excitement on the higher side. I need to figure out what that saying is or that stat is. But anyways, humans fear so much more than anything. And to even think that like when people make those transfers, their biggest fear is I'm going to lose my money. I'm going to be an idiot. This all is a scam. I knew it was all a scam. We all know it. And it's so cool to see how quickly that can be dismantled. Less than 30 seconds dismantled for them. And they're like, wait, it worked. And then suddenly celebration is there. Liberation from the fear shifted into excitement. It's so beautiful. And from there, I say, congratulations, you've just built a confidence point. Easy. You start to build trust in yourself. Gray. Setting up a Fidelity crypto account is an easy way to get into crypto. They sell them. Yep. All my people they're good with the exchanges. It's just, it always takes that discomfort zone at first. But I think there's a huge empowerment to owning your own crypto. And I don't think it's a huge hurdle for anyone to own their own crypto once they start to understand and trust in the system. Because ultimately what they're doing, the more times that they poke the system, they test themselves, they test the uncertainty that lives within, the more what they're doing is they're building their confidence. They're building their inner trust within them own selves. So I think even just taking a moment for you just to reflect back, like what are some of the things that either you are we'll start off on this end. What are you fearful of that you've been avoiding because you think that it's going to go wrong? And what's something that you can do to just poke that system for you? Poke it to be like, is that actually something that's worth fearing? Honestly, for me, I'll share like taxes for me have been, I've worked a lot around taxes and I've gone to a lot of experts in the sense to like really dismantle this deep fear around taxes, and then building systems to help work for it. But for a while, I definitely feared of just like, how much would I owe? And I would procrastinate and delay. And I know that I'm not alone with this. It's a very common human fear in many ways. I've spoken about it with many of my women about this. But ultimately, confronting those fears, seeing them, taking actions, that's how we get to rewrite a story for ourselves as well. So whether it's literally confronting your own fears, taking an action to rewrite the script to build your inner trust points, or I'm going to use it on the other end, if something goes wrong in the system. So like I find when my ladies are getting into crypto and they're like calling their Fidelity accounts or they're calling their bank accounts and being like, hey, I want to send this wire transfer over to my Coinbase account. And these banks push back and they say, who sent you? Are you working with anyone? Did you say this or did someone else? Like they start asking 10 questions and immediately my students know right away. They're like, can you see? The system is threatened. Can you believe it? And they immediately feel this like inner rage, which I'm like, yes, see it, feel it. And then at the same time, like feel it because ultimately it's going to pass. But just take note This is you poking your fingers into the system to see how is the system responding. That system feels threatened by crypto. Of course it does. They know what's happening. They're losing your economic energy. They're losing your power. Everything in the world works this way too. And so I find we can even test and we can poke gently into other places in our world as well, just to see how are things going to respond. Even how are the people in our world going to respond to certain things? You can ask questions, you can observe, you can see what happens. You can push back a little bit, lovingly, gently, maybe a little bit more aggressively sometimes, all given certain situations. But I do find that there's great power in testing the system and tinkering in these different ways. And it's in this way that we can also start to build an objective mindset of these are the facts, this is how some things work. I do think there's a really healthy balance of not just being like, this one thing happened, this is how the whole system works. Like, we can get a little bit too much in our ego if we're doing it this way. I've definitely run into different men who have done it that way. Not to generalize, just leaving it that way. I know that a lot of guys want to be like, this is how everything works. I'm like, can we have a little bit more case studies, please? Thank you so much. But anyways, just seeing the generalization, some of these patterns helps you just understand some of the uncertain factors that are out there, some of the ways that some of the ways we relate to certainty. But deep down also, like, it's building our inner confidence in ourself. It's building an inner deep trust. So we're going to go back to the word trust. We want trust in ourselves, right? The way that we build trust in ourselves is, wait, how do we build trust with ourselves? How do you build trust in yourselves? God, I love questions so much. Can you guys tell? How do you build trust within yourself? I feel like it's time. I'd also love to hear what you guys do. But building trust in self, it feels like shows up for like taking action or seeing what is. And actually, this is a question I'm going to ponder with a little bit more because I love the word trust, but at the same time, how do you build trust within your own self? Ooh, this is a good one. I know I've answered this before. It goes back to confidence. I think I build trust. I think this is the dance of building trust. Okay. Maddie. Okay. Say, do, correspondence. Do what you say and say what you do. Trust. Yep, exactly. That was it. Yep. It's taking the actions. Yeah. Thank you. And we'll also see if anyone else has any other responses. How do you build trust with yourself? I like that one. Say what you do. Here we go. Say what you do and do what you say and say what you do. Trust. And I think this is also like the beautiful thing. Even the saying goes, actions speak louder than words. We know this. And trust is built, not bought. All of these things. So I think just recognizing for yourself of how you actually build trust for your own self. And I think this is where, like, Maddie, I've said this to you, where I'm like, I love how consistent you are with your shows and how much you have shown up. I feel like anyone who's been very consistent on these stages and in these places, it's a deep devotional energy to something that is, whether that's identity, mission, everything else in between that comes with it, but you've ultimately built a deep trust within yourself that you can do it. And you are that person to do it. Like, who else would do it? You will. You'll show up. No one else can. So I think many actions that we can take helps us all build more trust within ourselves as well. Actually, there's a really great book called The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey. If you know 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it's his son that actually wrote the book. It's really great. But it talks more about like the anatomy of trust within people and within organizations and structures. It's amazing. Gray said, setting and then accomplishing a realistic goal. Yeah, exactly. So I think trust shows up it can show up in like little bite-sized pieces that we can always go back and ask ourselves, like, where are we feeling unconfident, lack of confidence in ourselves? Typically, what's the way that we can diffuse that lack of confidence and fuse it with confidence is by showing up and taking little actions to prove to ourselves that we trust in ourselves. And if it's not ourselves, if it's someone else, How can we give them a task or something that they can do to show that they need to build their trust with us? And I think even there's a really great power in even just breaking down this anatomy for people with, like, you're in an organization or you have other people below you, and to tell them, like, hey, I'm trying to build your trust right now. Like, can we start off with bite-sized pieces? Can you, like, I want to give you more things, but can we get rolling? And I think it's actually a really beautiful response for people just to understand, like, oh, this is where I'm at, given these things to help build my trust. Like, can we do this? Can I build trust in my own self that I'm capable of this? Everything else that goes along with it. So definitely just going back to the whole greater theme is, like, the key to beating uncertainty. One of the massive keys is really to be building an inner, like, dialogue with yourself around how your inner world operates. So this is the big power of emotions, the big power, like, being aware with your emotions. Emotional intelligence has been, I think, for my own self, one of the greatest gifts that and unexpected gifts that I got from being a crypto investor. Just because everything is so uncertain and so volatile that everything gets served right in your face. You're either going to lean in or, like, fade away. But I think seeing the emotions that are there helps us. It has helped me to be like, okay, this is how my world operates. This is how I respond to uncertainty. This is even how my ego or greed responds in certain times. Interesting, noted. Awareness, emotional intelligence. It's from here, it's from the times that I did not have emotional intelligence that I'm able to learn going forward of how to be more aware of my emotions when other conflicts come up. So now, when I'm having conversations and communications with others, I'm able to express wants, needs, desires, boundaries, any way, shape, or form that I have, because I'm like, been there, done that when I have not expressed these emotional things that have been going on within me with other times, given, like, crypto. If anyone, I'm sure for any of us who have been in this longer than 3-4 years, maybe even less than that, we've all felt this feeling when we have not sold or when we have bought when things are high, and almost this little, like, betrayal of inner self. And just saying, all of those are data points, all of those things, if you take lessons from them, they're all lessons to help you become more emotionally intelligent, make better decisions for yourself going forward in the future. But see the lessons that are there. It's beautiful to be uncertainty, and just, like, this uncertainty web comes with so many different layers. So I feel like we're wrapping up today, but I've really enjoyed dropping in with you all. I'm so grateful that everyone showed up today. Got 111 viewers on right now. Makes my heart so happy to hear and feel and see. And I'm just really enjoying how I've dropped in with you guys too. So this feels very conversational. I'm able to explore my inner world with you guys. But I think that this is the beautiful journey that we all have as crypto investors, we're building wealth. But what does wealth mean? I personally, like, this is where I've been really excited in my world right now, is I've been working with, like, my women to, like, the different layers that come with a wealth mindset, which ultimately I believe that wealth is more about feeling confident, feeling comfortable with your power, with your ability to create in the world. And so the more that we say yes to these things, or yes to, like, conversations that may not feel like they're for us, for some people that may be around taxes, that may be setting up a trust structure, if it's for them, if it's not for them, how to get creative with laws, how to maybe study law, how we're studying finance, how we're studying how power flows in the world with the Black Rocks and the other things that go on in the world. Like, all of these tools, they're all tools to help us build out a stronger wealth mindset, which then ultimately helps us claim more of our power. Which, like, when money goes up, you have more power to then influence the world in a stronger way, influence in whatever way you want to refer to influence, but ultimately build the world that you want to see. You get to invest in it. You either get to buy the cars, you get to give it to the political campaigns, you get to give it away to the charities. You get to build the world that you want to see, or you just get to have freedom for yourself. But either way, I see that this game of being an investor is not just money go up, but instead it's a matter of we are claiming more power for ourselves, power that is in integrity and in alignment with self. We are understanding who self is. For me, we'll talk about values a whole nother day. But this whole wealth body, this wealthy self body, is a thing that we are all crafting for ourselves. So even for myself, my community is called Queen of Millions. And even looking back at that name for myself, I'm like, okay, to be a Queen of Millions, women embodiment of this, what does that even look and feel like? It's not just about money numbers go up, but instead, when more power, when more money is there, how do you handle yourself? What are your values? Where do you value putting your energy? What impact do you want to create in the world? What questions are you asking? Who are you conversing with? Or else we all know the deal. Money can come in and money can flow out. It can purely be egoic. It can be for status stuff. But are we here to change the world? That's the stuff I'm after. And I do think that takes time, that takes calibration, and that takes relentless, leaning in. Let's discover the inner world. So anyways, I've purely enjoyed being here with you guys. Shout outs. I do have some one-to-one space that I've just opened up and released today for anyone who's been wanting to get into the crypto world. I feel like all of you guys are in there anyways. I do have my crypto 101 program for any loved ones also that are also sitting on the side. I take you through the whole 9 yards, tech, understanding why crypto, why we're here, to Pulse Chain, to MetaMask, to DEXs, to thesis, to all these things, diversification and beyond. Then I have my wonderful Queen of Millions community, and I'm so stoked for this. Can I even tell you? I have so many more women guest speakers that are coming into this space as well. Even this week, we have a lady Melissa Friedman, she's coming in and she's speaking about preserving wealth in an introductory talk, which I'm so stoked about. That's tomorrow for the ladies. We actually had a fellow Hexagon join this past week. I'm so thrilled. And then the week after, we have a conversation about trusts. One of my former law friends, she's been studying the systems deeply. And so she's going to talk about estate planning and trust building to understand if it's for you or not. And then I have a few other magical, wonderful, powerful guests coming up as well. But that's September's lineup. And then given in between, we have also my own crypto takes and digesting in the process and macro updates and all the things. But yeah, anyways, I thoroughly enjoyed being with you all today. We're up to 122. Okay, on this note, I'm going to sign on off, but I hope you have a beautiful Sunday wherever you are in the world. Sit on some of the stuff, see how you relate to certainty and uncertainty. And also I would love to hear from you in any way, shape, or form if any of this stuff landed. Thanks, Gray. I'm glad that it stuck for you too, or you enjoyed your time here. But I look forward to catching you on the next one. And I'm Whitney Magic, signing out for you all. Catch you on the next one.